In this movie, I'm going to show you two of our modules, the Foundation Manual Excavation module and our Foundation Mechanical Excavation. To start, let's look at the manual excavation. To begin my pricing, I will enter the length of the foundations here, in the red cell. This is 6 metres. Then I must tell it the depth. This is 1 metre. I will just click on this thumbnail picture. I will use this helpful diagram to enter the rest of my foundation requirements. The excavation depth of 1 linear metre that I've just entered is shown here. I will enter the width of the foundation. This is 0.6 linear metres. And finally, I'll enter the depth of concrete below ground level. This is 0.4 linear metres. Now I've entered my measurements, I will click Enter Details. As you can see, the information I entered directly into the picture is now in the red cells. If you wanted, you could just enter the information directly into the red cells, but this is up to you. The module has used the numbers I've entered and calculated for me the depth of concrete for my foundation as 0.6. I will now look at what has been allowed. There are some blue cells that will require my judgment. For the setting out, I will be hiring in a site level for 1 day, so I'll enter 1 here. I'll be using it for an hour, so I'll put another 1 here. The module has used this information to calculate the plant hire and labour costs. For the manual excavation, the default has allowed 9 hours. This is highlighted in yellow, so may need to be adjusted, as it's impossible for the programme to know the exact ground conditions of where you will be working, or what services need to be taken into account. If I click on the question mark, in the diagram I can enter how many hours I want to allow for the excavation of each cubic metre. I'll be leaving this as it is, but if you wanted, you can change this, and the programme will then adjust the hours and labour costs to match what you have entered. My levelling stakes have been worked out. If you weren't using these to level your concrete, you would just untick the box, and they will be removed from your costings. I am using them, so I'll leave these in. If I click on the question mark, I can see that the stakes are 0.6 linear metres. I will just alter the depth in the ground to 0.1 linear metres. It also shows me the spacing between the stakes is set at 1 linear metre, which you could change if you wanted. These are the finer details, so rather than checking it every time, you could set these to your preferences in your master copy. This would save you time, as then every time you brought the module in, you would know that they are already set the way that you like. My concrete has been calculated. I'll need 3 cubic metres. As this is coming on a 3-metre lorry, I won't have a part load charge. Just to demonstrate how this module covers everything, if I just alter the length of my foundation to 9 linear metres, I will now need 4 cubic metres of concrete. Again, there is no part load charge, as I've gone over the first load, but if I select a 6-metre lorry, there would be a 2 cubic metre part load charge that is accounted for here. This is one of the great things about not just this module, but all of our modules. Everything is thought of, so you are able to get on with the job with the confidence that nothing has been forgotten. Finally, we have the waste disposal. I'm going to be using an 8-yard skip, so I click on the question mark, select an 8-yard, and this is entered into the pricing sheet. I can see that I'll need 1 of these. My foundation manual excavation is all calculated, with the totals for my plant, materials, hours, labour and overall total shown here along the bottom. I've now brought in the Foundation Mechanical Excavation module that I mentioned at the start of this movie. As you can see, the information needed in the red cells is exactly the same as the manual excavation. I will enter 9 linear metres for the length of foundation. Now I'll click on the thumbnail picture and enter the rest of the measurements directly into this. So 0.4 linear metres for the depth of concrete below ground level, 1 linear metre for the depth of excavation, and finally 0.6 linear metres for the width of foundation. And now I click Enter Details. I can see that these numbers have gone straight into the red cells. As with the manual module, the depth of concrete for the foundation has been automatically calculated as 0.6 linear metres. If I look down the pricing sheet, I can see most of the pricing sheet has been completed, but there are a few blue cells that will require my judgment. Let's take a look. For my setting out, I will be using a builder's level, and I'll hire it in for a day, so I enter 1 here. I'll be using it for an hour, so a 1 here. The programme uses these numbers and then calculates the costs for this. The blue text here is telling me that in the calculations for the setting out, the module has not allowed for any line marker, stakes, profiles, and so on. These aspects are covered in our setting out module that is specifically designed for this aspect of the work. So if you did require these items to be included on your foundations, then you would need to use the setting out module. I am going to change the 3.5 tonne excavator, as I'll be using a 1.5 tonne machine. So I'll select this from the drop-down menu, and the costs immediately adjust. I can see that the hours for the excavator are highlighted in yellow. This is because they may require my judgment. I will alter these hours, as I am now using a smaller machine. I will enter 4 hours to carry out the excavation. As with the manual module, I do not have a part load charge for my concrete, but I do know that I will be using a 6-metre lorry, so I will select this option. And 2 cubic metre part load charges are allowed. For my waste removal, I'll be using an 8-yard skip, so I'll select this here in the drop-down menu. The totals for the plant, materials, hours, labour and total cost is shown here along the bottom. As I have entered exactly the same foundation dimensions for the manual and mechanical excavation, I can now easily compare the cost on a line-by-line basis or by looking at the totals. I can see straight away that the manual excavation will be the more expensive option, and by looking at the breakdown, I can see that this expense is created by the man-hours that will be needed to dig it out. So even though I'm not incurring higher costs for the excavator, the most economical way to do these foundations is by taking the mechanical option. Having seen both these modules, I'm sure you will agree that pricing up your foundations using either or both is fast, easy and accurate.